Those of you who are active on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, have probably seen the rumors floating around that the ACC and the Big 12 are in discussions to possibly form a scheduling alliance or maybe even a full-blown merger. That's right, a full-blown merger. How crazy is that idea? Is it being reported by anybody in the media? And what are my thoughts on that possibility? We're going to talk about all of that right after this word from our sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. What is up, college sports fans, Big 12 fans, and fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another edition of Kozza Corner. Belly yourself up to the bar and let me pour you out a shot of top shelf college football content. On tap in today's episode, we are talking about a potential merger between the ACC and the Big 12. Now, what prompted this conversation? Well, first of all, I want to tell you right up front, this has not been reported by anybody in the media. Nobody like a Dennis Dodd or a Pete Thamel or a Ross Dellinger or a Brett McMurphy or a Max Olson or a Nicole Auerbach. None of those people are reporting this. This is strictly rumors that I've seen on X. The first person I saw put it up was MHVER3, who most of you probably know likes to put out stuff about conference realignment. Some things he's been right on, some things he has not. Also, C.W. Lambert, who's another West Virginia fan, who claims to have inside sources. Whether he does or not, I'm not here to debate. But he's also saying those conversations are taking place. Again, it has not been reported by anybody in the media, okay? But I did think it was an interesting conversation. When I first heard it, I thought, man, that's ludicrous. There is no way that's going to work. It wouldn't make sense. It's not going to happen. And is it going to happen? Probably not. And if it does, it probably won't be in the near future. But is it feasible and is it possible? I think it absolutely is. And I'll tell you why I think so. When you look at the landscape of college athletics today, right, you have the Big Ten and the SEC signing these massive, massive media deals. They're going to be making anywhere between $70 to $100 million per school per year in those leagues. Then you have the Big 12 and the ACC schools who are going to be making right around $40 to $50 million a year, right? That's a big gap. And the ACC and the Big 12 are going to have a really hard time ever catching up to those other two leagues. And then you have the report that came out, I think a week or so ago, that NCAA President Charlie Baker is actually proposing that the quote-unquote haves, the richer schools, can separate themselves from the other schools and have their own rules, have their own championships, whatever. And when that happens, you may see some of these ACC and Big 12 teams get left behind, folks. That's very possible. There may be some that decide they don't want to be a part of the arms race that is college athletics, primarily college football. So I got to thinking, would the ACC and Big 12 forming some kind of alliance, or even better yet, a full-blown merger, could that be a way for them to stay ahead of the game and stay caught up with, or at least get closer to, the Big 12, the Big 10 and the SEC? Is that possible? They could have strength in numbers. You would have a conference, folks, that would literally stretch from coast to coast, from North Carolina to California, right? From the Atlantic coast to the Pacific coast, because you got former Pacific Coast Conference teams and Atlantic Coast Conference teams in the same league, right? I mean, that's happening already. But then you add in the Mountain Time Zone and the Central Time Zone that you're getting with the Big 12, you have all four time zones thoroughly covered, coast to coast. You have strength in numbers. You have a lot of inventory to sell to Fox and ESPN and whoever else wants it, Apple, Amazon, whoever. And if Brett Yormark decides he wants to truly separate basketball from football in media deals, you'd have a really good basketball conference in addition to a decent football conference. Now, what I have done, I have put together a spreadsheet to show you a model that I think could just work. First off, you have the ACC in the left column. Now, for the sake of this conversation, I'm assuming that Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and Virginia are all going to leave the conference. So I've taken them out, okay? And I've added in SMU, Cal, and Stanford because they are joining. And in the Big 12's case, I've added in Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, the Four Corner schools, because they are joining the Big 12. When you do that math, it comes up to a 30-team conference. And that includes Notre Dame, by the way, who I know will still be an independent in football more than likely. But in other sports, they would be part of this. But you'd have a 30-team conference, 29 in the case of football. Just for sake of this argument, for fun, I'm calling it the Atlantic Pacific Conference, the APC. You could call it the Coast to Coast Conference. You could call it whatever you want to. You could call it the National Collegiate Football League, the NCFL. I don't care what you call it. But what you could do within this 30-team league is divide them up into two 15-team divisions, just like the NFL does. In those two 15-team divisions, you have two subdivisions. You have an East and a West. How did you like the creative names I came up with for the two divisions, East and West? That took me a lot of time to figure out. I'm not going to lie to you. But anyway, in all seriousness, you have four subdivisions. I color-coded them for simplicity. Look at them. I did it based on geography, and you've got some good rivalries within these as well. When you look at what I'll call the North subdivision of the Eastern division, you have Boston College, Syracuse, Pitt, West Virginia, Louisville, Cincinnati, Iowa State. Now, you could say Iowa State may be an outlier there, but you're kind of connecting them to the other schools with Cincinnati and Louisville. So I don't think it's that much to ask them to be in a league. It's not bad travel. And in other sports, you could even throw Notre Dame in the mix, who's in Indiana, which is another state that's in that part of the country, close to Iowa. Then in the southern subdivision of the Eastern Conference or Eastern Division, you have Wake Forest, Duke, NC State, the three Carolina schools that are still left. You have Georgia Tech. You have the two Florida schools in Miami and UCF. And you have Virginia Tech. For the sake of this argument, I'm assuming Virginia Tech doesn't get invited to either the SEC or the Big Ten. We all know that they could be attached at the hip to Virginia. I did a video on that. I will leave a link to that in the description box. So there you go. There's two subdivisions of the Eastern Division or Eastern Conference or whatever you want to name it. Now, when you go to the west side, the Western Division, you have two subdivisions there. The first one, you could even call it the Pacific Division if you wanted to, or the Pacific Subdivision. You have Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, BYU, Stanford, Cal. You have the Arizona State rivalry. You have the Utah-BYU rivalry there. You still have the Stanford-Cal rivalry. And by the way, I forgot to mention, over on the east side, you've got the Pitt-West Virginia rivalry in the same subdivision. You've got Boston College, Syracuse. You've got Louisville, Cincinnati. Some really good rivalries there as well. Then you go to what I'll call the Midwestern subdivision of the Western Division. You have Baylor, Texas Tech, Kansas State, TCU, Oklahoma State, SMU, and Houston. So basically you have all the Texas schools plus Kansas State, and Oklahoma State. I think that's a pretty good mix. You have the Kansas State right now. You don't have the Civil War rivalry. I understand that. That would be missed there. You could still choose to play that game every year if you wanted to. There's no reason you can't, because the way the schedule is going to line up, you would play every team in your subdivision at least once, and then you play at least one or two games outside of your subdivision every year. So you could still have the cross subdivision rivalries if you wanted to play them every year. You could play Virginia Tech, West Virginia every year if you wanted to. There's no reason you couldn't. But I tried to make this make sense geographically. And heck, if you wanted to put Iowa State in the same subdivision as Kansas State, do that. I don't care. Throw Houston over in the East Division. I don't really care. That's not really the point here. The point is, You could have a 30-team conference or 30-team league, however you want to call it. You'd have a lot of inventory for the networks. They could have great content year-round. Baseball season, you'd have great baseball schools. Baseball season, football season, basketball season. You've got great games on the tube, on the television screen. You'd have power in numbers. I don't think there's any other way the ACC or Big 12 will ever be able to keep up with the Big 10 and SEC. Now, I've seen arguments say, but Coos, if you do this, you're only going to get one team in, you're only going to get one guaranteed spot in the college football playoff. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you, I don't know that the committee is going to let more than one team from each conference in anyway. If you're the Big 12, are you going to get more than one team in now anyway? You're not. Now, this might make it harder because you have more teams to compete against. But look, and I haven't seen the numbers on this, what this would bring from a television revenue perspective, but I at least think it's worth having the discussion. And oh, by the way, here's how you format the championship. The East and the West will each have their own champion. Those two champions play each other for the conference or the league title. And let's just imagine a minute. The Big 10 and SEC do indeed separate themselves from the ACC and the Big 12 and form their own league. Right here you go. You have your own league. You have your own championship. It solves that problem too. Even though you may not be playing with the quote-unquote big boys, you can still crown your own champion, and you still have 30 teams that you'd be beating out for a title. That's still pretty impressive. That's what they do in all the pro leagues. You're not competing against 130 schools. You're competing against 30 teams. What would be the shame in winning a championship over 29 other teams or 28 in football? There's not. I see no reason why a league like this could not survive even if they don't make it in the same league as the SEC and the Big 10. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section, Kozza Corner. Find me. What do you think about this scenario where the ACC and the Big 12 join ties? They form their own 30-team league. This is, like I said, this is assuming Florida State, UNC, Virginia, and Clemson leave the ACC. They've got to figure out a way to stay relevant, and the only way they may be able to do that from a revenue perspective is power in numbers by merging together, becoming one major super conference. It would get a team like mine, the West Virginia Mountaineers, they would get back in a league with their traditional rivals. That would solve a lot of our fan base's issues, a lot of the complaints our fans have had about being in the Big 12 is that we've lost games against our traditional rivals. This gets that back, and you'd be in the same league again. Yet you still can play games against the Big 12 teams as well in Kansas, Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. You still get those teams on your schedule too. You get the best of both worlds. And the only thing I would question here is, as far as revenue goes, with that many mouths to feed, could you really keep up even still with the Big 10 and the SEC? Because you'd have to split your revenue between all these teams. That's why I'm thinking that maybe a scheduling alliance between the two conferences, where they each remain their own separate entities, but yet they play each other every year, maybe that is a better scenario and a more profitable way to go than a full-blown merger. Now, this alliance would not be written on a napkin. It would be an actual forged, written, in ink contract, okay? Wouldn't be a handshake agreement. It'd be an actual contract, contractual alliance, where you could merge your TV deals together, maybe help each other to help stay up with the Joneses, so to speak, of the SEC and Big 10. Maybe that's the way to go here. Let me know what your thoughts are. Also, guys, you can like the video by hitting the thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. If you don't like it, hit the thumbs down button. That works as well. Also, share it with your friends. Let them know about Kozza's Corner here. Also, last but not least, subscribe. That's the last free way you can help me here, subscribing to my channel. You can also help me financially, guys. If you want to support the show, if you like what I do and you want to donate to the channel, you can donate by hitting the heart thanks button below, or you can get something in return. You can join my channel, become a VIP member just like Denny Allen, Matt B., Tack Sprint, and Shannon Miller. Become a paid member of Kozza's Corner. I have two levels, the pub level and the club level. Both right now, I'm doing a Bowl Mania contest where you pick the winners of each bowl game. It's only open to my channel members. If you want to get in on that contest, join my channel today and get in on that contest. There will be a prize for the winner. It will be a pack of ONIT athlete trading cards of your favorite team. And of course, if they don't have your team, then I would give you something else. Speaking of ONIT trading cards, I am an affiliate marketer of those cards. There's a link to ONIT athlete trading cards in my description box. If you click on that link, get yourself trading cards of your favorite college team. 60% of the profits go to your favorite football players, folks, or your favorite athletes, depending on what you buy, what sport you're buying. But right now, you can get your favorite football team. Transfer portal's hot and heavy right now. If you want to help your team secure athletes through NIL, this is one way you can do that. ONIT athlete NIL trading cards. Click the link in my description box. I'll get a small commission of the sale. There are also other ways you can support me in the description box, whether just donating through Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. I have a link to Fanatics as well if you want to do your Fanatics shopping. And I have my own merch store, folks. You can get my channel logo. You can get the West Virginia Jack Daniels design. You can get the West Virginia versus the World design. There's other designs in there as well. Go check it out. Click one of the photos below the description box. That'll take you right into my merch store. Get you a hoodie, a beanie, a ball cap, a tank top, a coffee mug, a mouse pad, all kinds of products in there to choose from. Check it out now if that's something that interests you. With all that being said, guys, I want to thank you for your continued support. Thank you for helping my channel grow. And until the next show, you have a top shelf day and cue country roads.